Oh, we've got 2 minutes. Oh, Councillor. Water, Waste and Energy Committee meeting, Thursday 11th of May. Everybody's in attendance and we welcome visiting councillors, Councillor Owen Jones, Councillor Pauline Young and Councillor Gates. Thank you. We've got no leave of absence. If everybody's in agreement, we might start the confirmation of minutes for the last meeting, unless there's any corrections that anyone's got. No, that's fine. Any conflict of interest declarations? I don't think there is any. No, that's all right. We have another start item 5.1, and that's just the forward planning schedule. So if someone would like to move the start items, Councillor Peter Young and seconded by Councillor McDonald. All those in favour? That's carried. It is a very exciting committee. And I'm sure we've got some viewers. We actually do have a couple of one item in closed, but one in open. So we might start with 6.1, and that's the Southern Trial for the public place recycling. And welcome to Chris Owen, who's our acting director just for this meeting. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillors, if I could please invite Josh Evans in. Oh, apologies. Right, I think I'm on there. Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillors, just introducing, for those who haven't met Josh, and I think most of you will have before, who's our Executive Coordinator for Waste Management, to talk us through the first paper there, which is the Southern Trial of the public place recycling. So again, Josh will walk us through the results of the trial and some of the associated recommendations, but probably more importantly, what we've learned out of that and how it informs wider public place recycling on the Gold Coast and how we need to push in that direction. What if I'll take my glasses off? Working together too long. Yeah, that's right. All right, put that in the minutes. Okay. Thank you, Chair, for the introduction. Thanks, Chris. So in November last year, Council resolved that we should undertake a PPR trial in the southern portion of the Gold Coast.
between Duranbar and Palm Beach. So the recommendation or the resolution was that we implement that before Christmas, which we managed to do in conjunction with City Cleaning. In the end, we managed to implement 50 new PPR bins between Point Danger and Burleigh Heads. They were serviced 4 times a week by City Cleaning, and Water and Waste undertook several audits for contamination during that period. So some of the key results, we collected approximately 500 kilos of recyclables per week. A lot of the primary materials we collected were pizza boxes, other paper and coffee cup lids. A lot of the CRS or containers were removed by some enterprising individuals along the PPR expansion area. So a lot of those people would get in there before City Cleaning would come along each morning, remove the material. At this stage, they're not causing a litter issue. So I don't believe there's been any discussion with those people about stopping it, but yeah, that's just something to be aware of going
Excuse
forward.
me, can I just ask something, Josh, before we get on to the next slide? I've noticed in my area, and I don't know if the other councils have done it, especially on the foreshore, some of these individuals seem to have some sort of key implement that can get into the enclosures of the bins.
Right, okay. Thank you. Yes, I wasn't aware of that. So Christy's nodding in the background there. So yeah, we'll follow that up with City Cleaning. So typical contamination rates were fairly high. They're up around 20 to 30%, which is well above household contamination rates, which are below 5%. So coffee cups and food waste were the primary contaminants. And we found things like I'll just skip forward and then back. If you look at the bottom right photo there, if you've got a bin enclosure next to a lidded recycle bin, people will tend to go out of their way not to touch a bin lid if they can and just pop it straight in the enclosure. So yeah, in those mismatched bins, we did lose a fair few recyclables. It does appear that our inconsistent bin design and enclosures is causing some confusion for residents. So that is definitely an area for improvement going forward. So as you can see from the 4 photos up there, they're just a sample of some of the variety of bin enclosures that we have on the coast. The best performing enclosures in terms of improved recycling were on the top right there. So as you can see, the recycling's fairly clear, and the bottom left, just the paired wheelie bins, was the second best performing bin set. So yeah, it was clear from the results that we need to look at standardising these across the Gold Coast. So in short, the trial was a success. The public supported it, was well utilised, but we've got work to do on contamination. So the recommendations in the report are that the trial area is adopted as a part of our or City Cleaning's ongoing permanent servicing going forward. The second recommendation is that we add an additional 34 bins, expanding PPR to Mermaid Beach, so connecting Burleigh and Broadbeach. That we work with local businesses to reduce contaminants like coffee cups and proceed with a program to standardise our bin enclosure and signage to basically make it easy for people to
Thanks,
recycle.
Josh.
Thank you.
I'll just go from left to right. So Councillor Owen Jones, Councillor Gates, and then Councillor Young, then Councillor Tozer.
So two things. One is just in regards to the standardisation of design, given the fact that all of our fleet of household bins are red tops, do you think that it makes sense that we have red in the colour scheme? So see how you got that? I understand the yellow, but do you think it would help if we had red?
Yeah, that's definitely something we're working with Parks on. We haven't finalised that yet. Some preliminary advice is that the red enclosures fade over time and become more like a pink and require more maintenance. But yeah, that's something we haven't finalised.
We'd just call it watermelon and say it's part of the brand guidelines. And then the second thing is there any scope for like a simple Q code on our bins to help people with what is recyclable, what's contamination, etc.? So even if 1 in 100 people used it.
Madam Chair, if I can answer that one. The QR code is something we're really keen to expand. So, for example, in our green organics bins, there will be a QR code on the top of those ones, which allows us, the people who do use it, our focus groups suggest less people use it than I would have hoped based on our COVID experience, and everyone should be quite familiar with them there. But nonetheless, on our green organics bins that we're rolling out, that's 77,000, which start rolling out on 1st of July, we'll have a QR code on them, which takes it back to our website. So if the contents of those bins change, for example, if we do go to FOGO in the coming years, then we can change that homepage without permanently branding those bins for just garden waste, if you like, when that may change. That same philosophy with these types of bins as well is something we would like to pursue. And with the colour coding, I think that's absolutely important. I think one thing we have really, or a few things we have learnt from the exercise in the south, is that based on the contamination and the volumes, the strategic driver for having those bins in place is not what we're recovering from them. It is about setting a standard and walking the talk. If we're not willing to be seen as doing this as a city, then it's harder for our behavioural change programs to leverage off that to get people to do both in public and at home what we'd like them to do. As an extension of that, the standardisation is that linked to back to their household bins. When they see yellow, they know what to do. When they say red, they know what to do. And the more education and tools we give them, including QR codes, forms part of that in my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the officers, is the coffee cup contamination merely because the cup hasn't been rinsed and there's dregs, or?
No, through Madam Chair, the coffee cups have like a wax liner on the inside of the cup, which makes it incompatible with recycling through.
See, I don't think people would know that.
No.
At all.
I didn't know that.
No.
The lid top has a recycle sign.
Yeah, so the lid can be recycled if it's taken apart from the coffee cup, but yeah, the cup itself.
Is that all of
generally, there may be some cups, but in the main they're not recyclable through our systems.
So with a milk bottle, if you don't rinse it out, is that a contaminant in our pickups at home?
It will. Sorry, Chris.
No,
Just as an example.
Yeah, it will still be recycled. It will still go through the recycling system. We encourage people to rinse and remove food and any dregs in their.
I think there's still a great deal of confusion in the community about what can and can't go in to our recycling bins.
Yeah.
And I think also when you look at shampoo containers, for instance, shampoo conditioner containers, some of them actually have on the bottle that, you know, that the actual container is recyclable, but the lid is not, or vice versa. So that's sort of come up, but I had no idea about coffee cups. So, Councillor Peter Young.
Thank you. What was the cost of this trial, please?
So Sorry.
Here.
You'll answer this if you get there first.
Yeah, no, it's actually in there. So the cost of the bins and the sticker installation, so the setup was just under 15,000. The capital cost, and obviously there's a service cost that goes with that, but we did find in that case that the routes that the city cleaning were operating meant they didn't need to put on additional trucks. They could use some capacity they had there. But saying that, for the further expansion of the additional 35-ish bins, there would come a collections cost because we pushed them over capacity lead.
So what do you anticipate the cost will be to extend the trial or to?
So the cost
Where are you
for servicing the southern area,
Thanks.
the trial area for a year was $90,000 for the collection for labour. For city cleaning.
And through Madam Chair, the extension of those additional 34 bins would be at a cost, and this is beyond Burleigh and North, was a capital cost of about $15,000 for those additional bins and stickers, and then a service cost of an additional $26,000 per annum.
So I'll just make a comment that, like, I support the trial, I support the expansion, but I'll often put in a request for a bin in a park where people are saying there's rubbish everywhere and it just gets refused. No, we can't put a bin there. We won't put a bin there. I'll ask again. No, we won't. And it's really frustrating that in some places we can't get a bin at all, and here we're providing almost a superior, well, it isn't almost, it is a superior level of service. It seems unfair. I was going to ask a question about the introduction of a QR code or something like that to tell people what can be recycled, and I think that point's been well made. Yes, there certainly is a lot of confusion. I mean, we hear about soft plastics. Nobody really knows what soft plastics is. Is that just the wrapping or is it the container? And the coffee cups, I'm not sure what you're anticipating you might be able to do with local businesses. Can you give me some idea?
Madam Chair, I can talk to a couple of points there. One of our ongoing frustrations is that education piece and the behavioural piece. The city has got a pretty good record of providing everything and more that we can when it comes to that education. So, for example, the Recyclopedia that we spoke about in previous committee sessions, where if people have the city app, it's all there. You know, you can search whatever you've got in your hand, and it tells you exactly what to do with it. That's on our website as well. The lead agency really that we fall in behind is the Australian labelling scheme. So you will see those labels now on packets that say the lid goes here and the base goes here. Again, we would like to see a fair bit more communications and advertising broadly about that scheme. We do find in focus groups, when we ask about what do you recycle, we play a couple of games with people in terms of what they think goes where. There is confirmed confusion in the community about what does go where, and a request to keep providing that information. And our response in the city has been, we've provided lots of different information in lots of different ways, but we do understand that we do need to keep reinforcing that. We have worked with the media. We've found that Channel 9 and Channel 7 over the last 2 to 3 years have been quite helpful, and we've done a couple of pieces with them where the journalists will take on this one, and we have that ongoing conversation with a couple of our media outlets to load them up with any information that they need to make the story interesting. But it will need to be a conversation and all sorts of a portfolio of communications approach to get that traction until it becomes deep habit in our community.
I think you'll find too that the primary school kids have actually more of an idea than the adults, because I know when we went to Miami School through the Eco Warrior partnership, and they'd done a recycling audit with just rubbish they'd found in and around the school. The kids knew so much more, you know, and they knew what was recyclable and what wasn't. I've got Councillor Tozer, followed by Councillor Hamill, then Councillor Young and Councillor McDonald.
So I'm guilty of putting the coffee cup in, thinking because of the top of the lid that it's recyclable. So just apologies. Is there a proposal to change the sign on the bin? Is that what's like no plastic bags, no food waste, no coffee cups?
Yes, this is just an example of some signage. We're going to take the results of the trial and use that to inform our signage closures going forward. The focus groups that we did indicated that people engage more with symbols and pictures rather than words. So that's something we're definitely going to be looking at going forward. And if I could just add one further thing, the state government's running through Department of Environment and Science statewide education campaign at the moment. It's targeted at the 20 to 35-year-old bracket in social media, so unfortunately I don't get those, but they're starting to get involved in this as well because it's a statewide issue.
So the other place that it seems like we probably don't have this very well done, and we could potentially have it well better done, is some of our big sports precincts. I know that Firth Park has some bins managed by the netball club. To what extent can we lobby you to see this trial, if not in our villages or neighbourhoods or community precincts, in our sports precincts? Can we? That is open. Can I add somewhere like Firth Park? I mean, obviously got 3,000 people every weekend, and there's a bunch of contamination there as well. But
through the chair, I think it is, as we discussed earlier, in our interest to be seen as providing these services, walking the talk as a city, so that we expect the same behaviours out of our customers. So in terms of additional ones, we are absolutely open to nominations. We will need to work with city cleaning. Again, they run the routines and trucks and have the capacities and those sorts of things to do those. But I'm more than happy to have some nominations thrown in there for us to take to city cleaning to see how we could stage something and budget for that.
are you happy for it?
Yeah, and I just thought when we actually proceeded with this trial, I thought there was some intention to roll it out to larger park areas if this was successful.
Yeah, I don't want to bombard your team with too many sites in one go, so I'm very aware that it's hard enough to roll it out at the best of times, but I love the idea of Pizzey Park, I like the idea of Firth Park, I love the idea of the Motorbus Showgrounds, a couple of fairly large and high-profile places where there is actually, higher volumes of people coming and going and utilising food. Even, there's even the odd park. I've got three pizza joints in the village, and as you might imagine, people get pizza, they sit in the park, and then it just goes in the landfill.
Yep.
And because we don't have an option. And Josh, we've had pizza in Mudgeeraba doing that exact thing, and we don't have this service. So.
And Madam Chair, part of that is I think we just need to get that staging right. So I think what we do need to do is get that standard bin set, and it won't necessarily be one size fits all. It'll be a portfolio, but a consistency. So if we're going to spend that money putting those in there, it would be helpful, I think, to have that standard set so we can then all the new ones match that one rather than trying to retrofit. But again, I think it is important that we do go down this path, and certainly I'd welcome some nominations around that.
Do you just want to receive those via email? Is that enough?
If you're comfortable with that, Madam Chair.
Email to you?
Why not?
Definitely email.
I suppose my question was to email to you or email to Josh. I mean, both of you have got email, but if you want to be the point of contact for these sort of
I'm happy for Josh to be the point of contact.
Just
because I drop balls more than Josh does.
No, I think it's a really great idea. Councillor Hamill had a question.
The report talks to the work that's being done with our friends in Park and Rec about this bin standardisation. Like, I kind of find it a bit amazing that it's even a discussion. Like, just get on with it and put bloody red frontage on this stuff. Like, the fact that it might fade a little bit quicker, have higher maintenance costs. The community has been asking for this for years. Just get on with it. So the report mentions that that's going to happen, but what's the timing? Like, are we 6 months away from having this, or are we years away from having this?
Sorry.
Josh,
Through the chair, we've got $100,000 budgeted for next year, and we're working towards getting something started early in the next financial year in terms of getting these bin enclosures standardised in high-profile places. So yeah, we're working with parks at the moment. We hope to get that over the line the next couple of weeks. Christy, you can nod at me or shake your yes. That's a yes. So yeah, we're definitely working to get that done as soon as possible.
All right. Is part of that to ensure that the park development guidelines, especially when it's parks being delivered by developers, include only using our bin set instead of it being at every different new park and playground getting delivered? We have different bins with different configurations, which, you know, the argument then comes back, well, it's brand new, we don't want to replace it straight away, so it sits there for 10 years without matching up the rest. That can we be better at enforcing new parks and playgrounds where developers put in bins, that it has to be what we standardise across the city?
Through the chair, absolutely. I think we do have a fleet of bins out there that will have a life. We don't want to pull those out early, but the sooner we get those into those standards, the better. And that's with that standard bin set. It's not necessarily about agreeing on a design. It's actually getting those mechanisms locked in the back. And again, with our parks colleagues, that's our goal to make that happen. We have to have some consistency.
Just to confirm, because the report doesn't mention it, but all of this that was collected did get taken to Visi?
That's correct.
Yeah. So do we pay a penalty since we're taking a truck that is heavily contaminated?
Through the chair, not at this stage.
But we will.
Yeah, if in the whole, our contamination rates are very good. If we start bringing in substantial quantities of public place recycling over time that's contaminated, we could expect some sort of penalty.
Right. So I think the failure of the report to acknowledge that is probably a shortcoming, because even with the additional ones you're adding, and then already today we've had discussion about other sites, that needs to be acknowledged and be part of a future report, is that if that 30% contamination rate continues, we will pay a penalty every time that truck goes in the Visi. And at some stage, they'll probably turn around and say, don't send that truck here anymore, because that has happened before.
Yep.
So we're going to have some kind of plan of how to deal with that, versus what could happen is we roll all these bins out and then we're either paying a penalty, which makes the offset of the recyclables useless, or Visi just says we're not going to accept it, which they can do in the contract. Yep. And then we look silly because all of a sudden we don't have anywhere to take these public place bins and the recycled materials in them apart from landfill, which is what we want to avoid.
We do.
I don't know if there's any interest in exploring if there's other pre-treatment options of some other kind of pre-treatment before it goes to Visi first, to look at that. If there's a small scale social enterprise that wants to become a MRF, a pre-treatment MRF provider.
Through the chair, we can look at that, councillor. I just need to look at our MRF plans that are underway as well, and also under the new resource recovery services contract, how we can leverage it into that, because we would back it into that contract to make that work.
Right. I'm interested in the coffee cup thing. Like, there is a lot of options available now for coffee cups that can be recycled. That's obviously not an area that we can force businesses to go to, but would there be any interest from my colleagues on committee of maybe adding a line in that we write to the state about where they might be at in terms of compulsory recyclable or compostable coffee cups in the state? They've seen, they've got rid of plastic straws, so we've got rid of plastic bags at shopping centres. Do we want to be seen to be taking a lead as a city in saying, like, maybe it's time for all coffee cups that are used in this state to be either recyclable or compostable?
Yes, we do. We want this committee to be more exciting.
Yeah, I just got there. It's if there's an interest in it, I think it'd be a practical thing to put on there, that we're trying to lead things or trying to change where we're at with public place recycling. Why not have a 4 and we send a letter off specifically about the one big problem I know it's not the only contamination issue, but it's a big one.
Well, it certainly wouldn't hurt, Councillor Hamill.
We have got the environment I won't give him the chance. I'm getting in for him.
Yes, we do have the environmental minister on the Gold Coast, so it wouldn't hurt.
So maybe when we come to that time, we could add a 4 on and
Yep.
I'll put a few words together.
Yep.
That was my questions, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Pauline Young.
Thank you, and through the chair. And again, I think it's a few of us with the coffee cups, being a coffee drinker. I think during COVID, when everyone was forced into using disposable cups, and they used to take their own cups in, their keep cups and stuff like that, I think it changed a lot then, and I think a lot of the, I guess, education then was everything's going to recyclable containers, so we had cardboard boxes for food and all that sort of stuff, so people just presumed. So I think that's part of that's an education thing, because I said I'm not quite sure if we can, you know, some of these cafes and that order 100,000 coffee cups at a time. You're not going to get them to chuck their current stock into landfill and get just recyclable ones. So I think that's a bit of a thing. And then also with the new bins coming in, and I did notice when I was the previous councillor in division with Burleigh Point, and also with my carols and that now up at North Burleigh, is that especially in Burleigh on the Christmas carols, the general public wants to do it. You know, that we had, and I've got photos of it somewhere, piles of Justin Lane pizza boxes stacked beside the bin, and requests for recycle bins, like they made leaning towers of pizza and all that sort of stuff out of it.
It's a Southern councillor thing.
It's a Southern councillor thing. But there was stacks and stacks of pizza boxes that people didn't want to put into landfill. So I think the want is there. I just think it's the education piece, because I've seen people try and scan their coffee cups all over to see if they're recyclable or not. So I think it's just, if you said blanketly, no coffee cups go into that until we get to where Councillor Hamill said, where everyone has to have recyclable cups. But I think, and I'm sure DAF's the same, we've had a lot of demand in our area for recycle bins. And people are looking. They actually look for the colour. So I think it's a good report, and I think it's when you're looking at the thousands of people that are using our foreshore parks all the time, if we can get those people doing it, then it's something that will, hopefully permeate out. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, I'm pleased that they have been installed, because we did have a lot of requests, especially at Burleigh, like Councillor Young mentioned. I've got two questions. One is, some time ago, I did ask for a sticker that could be put on beside the bin listing what could be recycled. I don't know if anything was ever done in regards to that. But I just found that it was very good to hand out to people, when they wanted to know, because a lot of people won't go to and scan. But if it's on the side of the bin and they just have a look, they're likely to throw whatever's in there. But at one time we did have a sticker that you could stick on the side of the bin with the list of recyclables. Also, with your drink containers, whether it be milk or water, whatever, do you leave the lids on or remove the lids? Because I know there's been a lot of discussion about when you throw a bottle away, apparently the lids may not be recyclable. Do you know? And what about the milk containers?
Through the chair, if it's the same material type, you can leave the lid on. So milk bottle, plastic containers, it's a good way to reduce the volume taken up in your bin, squeeze the air out and put the lid back on. For beer bottles, for example, you've got your glass container and your metal top. The MRFs generally operate with a trommel, which is like a spinning cylinder with holes about the size of credit cards. So a lot of the smaller bottle tops will just fall out through those holes and go to the waste stream. So one way you can make sure they're recycled is to, you can wrap them up in aluminium foil or other metal. Aluminium foil is recyclable.
See, we're learning. We probably need an education crash course.
And I've got a bottle here that says recycle me, I can become another bottle. And that includes the top.
And through the chair, I think that just shows the power of that labelling scheme, because that does need to mature even further in Australia and get people in the habit of realising that's on pretty much everything now. It's been there for a couple of years now. But it is really confusing, because that lid question is a classic one. The coffee lid is a classic one as well. And it is part of our messaging is saying, as a city, we can't necessarily be all things to everyone with education, but we can point to some of these systems that are operating right across Australia, so we have that consistency for people coming into the city as well, if they're behaving the same where they came from as they are here and visiting.
And I think, I mean, there is a coffee place in Tugun. When they actually bought the coffee shop, they actually renamed it Paper Cup and said that their coffee cups are recyclable. The whole of the coffee cup lid and the coffee cup. But that's only one. I only know one. Have you finished your questions, Councillor McDonald? Councillor Castro.
Thank you. Given that we're getting an education ourselves on what can be recycled, what can't, I have a question on one item. I would assume, I just asked Councillor Ryan as well, and he assumes the same as me, that it is not recyclable. Glad wrap, cling film.
No.
We were right. Okay, that's good. At least we were right, because we don't put that in our recycle bins, so that's good.
Let's see how you go. So, paper.
Yeah.
Cardboard.
Yeah.
Glass. Yeah. Wine bottles.
Well, yeah, but you can't get your 10 cents back on them, and that's an issue.
It's changing.
You can't get. They don't give you your 10 cents back.
Not one.
No, I said yes, but you can't get the 10 cents. But anyway, I have another more important question. Talking of 10 cents, it's a budgetary question, because you know how much I... so I see that you've actually spoken in here about the cost of rolling this out a bit further, and obviously with that cost for city cleaning. But given that we've probably all got somewhere, I mean, I've got Glennon Park, for instance, in Nerang. I don't have to send you an email now, Josh, so there we go, which obviously has a lot of activity with all the sports clubs there. But if we expand too far, is this something that we're going to need to address in the budget? Because it's getting a bit late to do that, isn't it? Because obviously it's going to have impacts.
Councillor Castro still has the floor.
Can you please keep your committee under control, Madam Chair?
I have told them.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair, to Chris or Josh, yes. Is that something we may need to do? Because if we're going to exceed what you've already got in the budget.
Councillor, if I may, perhaps could I suggest that if you have got those priority areas, that you do shoot those through to Josh and I. I think what we need to come back to you with the program of these and priorities, because it will be influenced to a degree by the collection routine. So, for example, in parts of the city, the parks are serviced by JJ Richards' contract. In the east of the city at present, by council contracts. So, by council day staff and council-owned trucks. So the logistics will determine potentially what that priority becomes, in that what can be done in a cost-effective and logistically sort of sensible way. But if we can have a portfolio to rationally work through that and come back to you, as well as recommendations on the where we've got to with the bin set and standardisation of that, may well be a more holistic way of doing it for you. And we use the budgets that we do have to keep rolling with some of the expansions that we've got sort of locked in now.
Councillor Gates, I think we really do need to come back, keep it on the agenda to come back with another report about, the way forward and a bit of a schedule. Otherwise, it's just going to get lost. Councillor Gates.
I don't mean to be rude, but through you, I, like Councillor Peter Young, would hope that we can address the specific concerns. I've had one club going for 6 months trying to get an extra bin because they're picking up the rubbish because the people are using the parkland and the bin of the club, and there's only the one bin. And I don't know if it's been resolved. I inserted myself into it only recently after it had been rejected on more than one occasion by Parks, that a bin go into, an additional bin go in where there's an obvious need. And it's Viney Park and it was Coomera Soccer Club, in case you're wondering. And I would hope that we could address those sorts of issues where we've got waste all over fields because of a general waste problem in an area. And I appreciate this is a great initiative, but I just thought I'd throw that into the mix as well, that those things we do need to address in our parks.
Is there someone we can appeal to? So, sorry to interrupt, Chair. Is there someone we can appeal to? So if we put in a customer request and it comes back saying, no, you can't have a bin, is there some kind of hierarchy there we can say, can this have a review?
Through the chair, I think this is a conversation that needs to occur between the asset custodian, which is the park, as well as city cleaning, or water and waste, who run the JJ Richards contract. So I know that's not what you want to hear in terms of those different areas there, but it sounds like to me a coordinated approach is really required. I personally can't impose a bin on parks if they, for whatever reason, believe that's not appropriate, but I can certainly talk to them about emptying that bin if it's within the JJ Richards zones of clearing public places.
One CP will fix it, Chair.
Maybe. Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just another question. Seeing that we have so many events in the city, and I know that like with netball and, you know, footy and etc., they have big days and there's thousands attend. When they deliver their bins, you know, because they usually put orders in for bins, do we allocate recycle bins in that, or is it just straight out
just normal bins?
Ordinary bins?
As far as I know, it's just normal bins.
Yeah, through the chair, we can make available recycle bins. It's typically up to the event what they will order. It's it's not a cheap service, but I can look into that further when we report back.
Yeah, because even with our city, like Cooley Rocks on and, you know, that we've got going, it'd be good to see that we've got a mixture of recyclable. Yes, with our city events.
Yeah. Councillor Young.
Thank you, through the chair. If I could just make a comment on that too, especially going into sporting grounds and things like that, you would say your sporting clubs would probably support having that yellow bin and then being able to say, well, we can collect all the bottles out of that and get the 10 cents on each bottle. It would come down to almost like a fundraising thing for them. If they had half refuge and half recycled, then you might find that you actually got less contamination if they're actually able to get a coin incentive out of it to pay for their costs on the day.
Yes, I do know some football clubs like Burleigh Bulldogs have, I think it's been supplied
Container for change bins
by
and
COEX that you just put your beverage containers directly into. So yeah, there is provision of a service by COEX to clubs, but yeah, there's obviously a need for recycling as well.
Thanks.
Yes, Councillor Peter Young.
Just for interest of councillors, there's a couple of big events at Country Paradise Parklands, and the organisers of the events are engaging private companies to provide a rubbish or waste service, and they have bins for separation on the event, and they educate people, and the reduction of waste to landfill is around about 7% of the total volume. It's pretty remarkable what they can achieve, and there's FOGO taken out of that, and there's the container deposit stuff taken out, and everything else is highly effective and not really expensive.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that Cooley Rocks on does do the recycling, just from memory, the last time I was down there. And a lot of the music events and surfing events that are run provide recycle bins as well. And they usually put that in their application. I think it is suggested through events when they're actually approving these events that they do look at that favourably. Councillor Hamill, have you got some words for us for number 4?
Check what email address you want it to. You have it.
Sort of covers everything. Has anybody got any other suggestions or want that changed or agree with that?
Perhaps where it says the last bit that the city requests that actually forms part of number 4, so that the mayor writes to the minister blah blah blah, and requests that the minister consider changes.
Yeah, let's put it together.
So, great.
Yep.
So does that, do we need that last line then to do it that way? Yeah. If you're gonna, I'm happy maybe as long as officers in preparing the letter provide that part of the context that
Yeah.
works.
So you want to get rid of number 5?
That's fine. That's
okay.
easy.
Just take out number 5, thanks, Ruthie. Okay. Would you like to move that, Councillor Hamill?
Happily to.
And I'm
Madam
very
Chair.
happy to second that. And even though I did mention to to Chris earlier on that for all the complaints I got about not having recyclable bins on the foreshore in my area, I've probably had not one person reach out and say, "Isn't this great?" So, which goes to show that people like to complain rather than praise. But I'm really happy that we've got them there because I think it's Chris is right in saying that we've got to walk. We've got to walk the talk. So, okay, all those in favour?
Can I
That's carried.
just
Thank
fix
you.
the spelling error, Madam Chair,
Sorry.
please? Okay, just the recycling that.
That's it.
That's better.
Very good. Okay, so our next item 7.1 about the bulky curbside clean-up update is a closed session, and that's for commercial in confidence. Would someone like to move us into close? Councillor Castra, and seconded by Councillor Peter Young. All those in favour? That's carried. And Dreaming on. Councillor Young,
Chair, I move the change motion in front of you there.
do I have a seconder? Councillor Tozer? Like to speak to that, Councillor Young?
Well, just because this is the most entertaining committee. The Flexi-Skip was a novel scheme that the council supported a couple of years ago, and it's been well adopted by the broader community, and this decision, if it's carried by council, will ensure that the service continues for an extended period, and the conditions of that will be determined by the officers to the satisfaction of the CEO, and we're sure that it will continue to be used in good stead. Thanks.
Councillor Tozer, did you want to say anything about that? No? Okay. All those in favour? That's carried unanimous. Any general business? Anybody got? Councillor Bowden-Lonsdon?
Chair, I was just wondering if there was any update on Suntown, if I'm able to get that. I'd raise that with you, sorry, last round.
Yep. It has, it's on the forward schedule.
Okay, must have missed that. Thank you for that.
You didn't have anything to add?
Sorry, I just missed that last bit about what's...
An update on Suntown?
I know that we, Council, we have a report scheduled back in July on Suntown, and I know the works, so for example, geotech studies and those sorts of studies are progressing as planned.
Okay.
Sorry again, Chair. Would that report also include the community leasing component? Or is it specifically on the green waste pad of...
I think it'll be a broader report than that because, again, the green waste pad was always presented to the community as a stage one option. So I think that that report will be really broad.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. There no further business. Declare the meeting closed at 2:10 p.m. Meeting's closed, but if anybody's interested, going to have a little bit of a talk about soft plastics.
Councillors, thank you, Chair.